It's the fall of 2022. Megan Glancey's out of the Navy, crashing at her parents' spare bedroom in Austin, looking for work. She scrolls back through 12 years of photos and videos from her time in the service, starting at the Naval Academy to her most recent duty station. She splices it into one clip and posts it. No hashtags, no plan. But then it went viral, and that changed everything. She ended up with an audience she never asked for, and she had to decide what to do with it. Welcome to Project Vanguard podcast, where veterans and mission-driven leaders share what it takes to build America's energy future. I'm your host, Kevin Doffing. Megan Glancey is a Naval Academy grad and a former naval flight officer who flew Growlers. Now she develops utility-scale wind projects for Steelhead, a Vestas company. Military service can be a door, but it doesn't close any deals. What you say after somebody tunes in is the whole thing. Megan's answer to that question runs from how she explains wind to ranchers and to why she pushes back on veterans who insist their own service didn't count. She's not just building the next generation of energy projects to provide our energy security, she's helping her audience understand the industry and what's at stake. Let's get into it. Megan, thanks for making time today. I'm glad that we were able to finally get you on here.
I know. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Well, you're a busy lady. You got some big jobs that you're filling, one official, one just kind of on the side.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say your official day job is?
So I work for Steelhead. We're the North American development arm for Vestas, one of the world's largest wind turbine manufacturers. So I'm sure you talked with maybe other developers in this industry, but we are responsible for kind of the ground floor work on renewable projects, going out and securing land, building relationships within a community, securing interconnection agreements, and kind of launching a project before it is constructed and operated onto the grid. So that is my day job. I help to develop big, large, utility-scale renewable projects.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with somebody, and they're like, well, none of that stuff's made here. I'm like, I saw Laura Bean at Clean Power, and she was hitting me up. How do we get more vets in the manufacturing center in Colorado? I'm like, that doesn't sound like overseas.
Yeah, we have some manufacturing facilities in Colorado, which I just moved from there to Texas. So right down the road from me. It's exciting to be able to tell our landowners here in the States that we manufacture a majority of our parts here in the U.S., in Brighton and Windsor, Colorado. So it's just nice to have American-made turbines on your property.
Yeah, 100%. I'm from Houston, so knowing Shell and the Dutch and, just the European companies that have headquarters here and so much staff, I've never found that much difference between Vestas and any of the other operating companies.
No, I mean, I think that working on the land side and talking with rural ranchers and farmers and kind of explaining what our industry does in comparison to oil and gas. I live in Texas too, so a lot of folks are really familiar with how an oil and gas landman comes out and navigates their mineral rights. We're doing basically the same thing on the wind side, then being able to explain to them, hey, a big portion of our parts come from the US because we've learned as an industry that part of our job is to build really solid relationships with rural people. So it doesn't serve us to go and, produce all of our equipment abroad and then just ship it here if we can find a way to make more jobs here in the US.
More jobs, it's cheaper, less logistics.
All of it.
A lot of good reasons.
All the good reasons. We love American jobs. We love employing veterans. We love, American made.
Yeah. So, going back to the landman comment, have you ever seen that video? You have to have seen that video from the show where it's the environmental lawyer going out.
I have not watched the show, but I have heard a lot about it and kind of worked kind of adjacent to it in some ways, but I've not watched it. I have heard that, obviously they have a very specific perspective, but we're excited to go put wind turbines up where ranchers want to control their own personal property rights. So,
yeah, I was at a vet thing for the Vets and Energy group, which is a great group. And there was one guy who worked in nuclear, and he's like, have you seen this? I'm like, I've seen the clip. And he's like, can you believe that? I'm like, I absolutely know that that's how, an oil and gas landman would talk. And he's like, right?
Yeah.
And can you believe that stuff's all true? I'm like, oh, no. All of it's categorically false that he said. But I mean, I totally believe that as an authentic, realistic portrayal of what that person would be. And it's delivered by a great actor. So yeah, but factually?
Honestly, I've had a lot of landmen who used to work in oil and gas who now work with us because they know how to navigate those conversations. And we work right alongside mineral title and ownership, and it's very navigable. So I'm very used to those personalities and that environment, and I like it. But I'm from West Texas. Older parts of my family have ranch land in eastern New Mexico. So I'm familiar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you ever get back out there?
I visited a couple years ago when I was between flight school and was stationed up in Whidbey Island, Washington, while I was on active duty for a portion of time while I was flying. And when I did like the cross country move that we're all used to and like loaded up my car with my Diddy,
Yeah.
I like drove through that part of New Mexico and like stopped and saw some of my old family members. They're still out there. Lazy Six Diner in Lovington, New Mexico. If anyone wants a really good patty melt, my aunt is there frying them up.
Nice. So, you've got this day job with Steelhead, you're developing wind, you're helping us, you're volunteering, you're going to be speaking at our first legislative roundtable, our Lunch and Learn series in Austin to kind of tie out the personal story of what energy security is and, just the chapter stuff, a lot of stuff that we're doing with Project Vanguard. But you're also out there, just spreading the good word on your own. How did you find yourself in a position where like, hi, let me talk to a camera when I don't have this bald guy across from me on a laptop?
Oh, I talk a lot. I talk a lot. That's who I am. But I came off active duty in fall of 2022, like right on Halloween was my last day. And I had packed up my stuff in DC where my last tour was. And I came down here to Austin where I am now. And I had to crash in a spare bedroom with my parents for a couple months while I was trying to find a job. And I was
As
scrolling
one
through all
does.
my old, as one does, as one has to do. And I was scrolling through all my old memories from the last 12 years, if you count the academy. And I was like, oh, this is fun. This was that, and I spliced them all together in a little video, posted it online. No hashtags or anything special. I just kind of put it all together and said, my name's Megan. I had this career that was a lot of fun and interesting. And I'm so proud and grateful that I closed it out with a bang. And it went super mega viral, and hundreds of thousands of people saw and liked it and kind of appreciated my service, which I'm grateful for, and decided to join a little bit of a bandwagon there and follow me. And so since then, I kind of was left with this platform, if you will, in my lap and
Mm-hmm.
thought of what I could do with it. And I've wavered between how serious I want to take it or not. And yeah, as I've gotten further into the renewable industry, I've realized that there's definitely opportunity for me to share what I've experienced both in the national security setting, because I used to work at the NSA, and in the energy space, and kind of thread that needle and explain some of my perspectives, even just outside of my formal job, about what we do.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how we started Project Vanguard. Like, I
Mhm.
coincidentally was doing a lot of stuff with vets in the industry, and then one day realized, oh, I didn't think of it as a platform, but I'm like, I have this huge network of veterans that work in this industry. I bet that's useful in some way, or I should be doing something with that.
People love vets. People love vets, babies, and dogs. That's, you can't go wrong. So if we can be utilized to share our perspective on things, then we should.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I realized is like people actually listen to us. I mean, it'll open a door. It's not going to close a deal, right? So it's like what you say after somebody has like tuned in because they will just as easily tune out. So what you say matters, but it's a lot easier to at least get someone's attention for a few seconds, get a meeting, get them to open an email. That's what's worked for us on the advocacy side is like, I keep finding people that are like, oh, if you want to meet with so-and-so, we'll have to see if we can find a lobbyist and pay them. And then they'll meet with some of your members. I'm like, oh, I already emailed them and like, they're good with us. Like, I mean, we're
You stick your
solid.
hand out there and shake it. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people feel really weird about like leveraging their service for something, but I see it more as hopefully the whole reason that you decided to serve to begin with is because you believed in something greater and you had a mission mindset, and you find a new mission in your next chapter, and people respect the service that you've provided. And so you should be able to utilize that as an opportunity to have those conversations, advocate for that new mission that you believe in, and hopefully advocate for other Americans as you always have in your career. So like that's how I take
Mhm.
my work online. That's how I take my professional work as well. And then obviously, you and I found one another kind of at that same point in time where you were building Project Vanguard. I was entering into this career professionally. And we were like, all right, we're two vets who like to yap a lot. Let's go do it with someone who cares.
So we hadn't even started Project Vanguard because that was when I was the director for the Atlantic Council's Veterans
Hmm.
Advanced Energy Project, which is now the Energy and Defense Program. It was literally like, hey, I just finished this fellowship myself. Dan had to go, he was moving over to Europe, and I've tried to get him on. He's like, people have heard my story. I'm like, Dan, I feel like we've got a bigger megaphone than whatever you were doing a ways back, but love Dan. Him and Greg, just wanting to put down the oars. They'd been rowing on the Veep stuff for 3 to 5 years,
Hmm.
and it was great. So I picked it up. I was a chief commercial officer doing O&M for utility scale projects. And I mean, like,
You're like, doo-doo-doo, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's figure this out.
well, I was like, you guys just need money. Like, you guys need a
Yeah.
staff, right? And they've got a great staff now. But I was like, and they're like, yeah, I know, but we don't have money. I'm like, and that's the problem.
Atlantic Council needed something to believe in too. I think they had a really great idea and it just needed this clear vehicle to like get off and just turn into what it is now. So it's good.
Well, and that's when we were talking about it, when we were like trying to institutionalize it inside the Atlantic Council. They're like, but listen, we don't want to do workforce. We're C3. We can't do any advocacy work. And I'm like, those are like the two things I want to do. So let's get this built up. Thought leadership's amazing. But like, even when we do the roundtable later this month that you're going to be at, converged strategies are like a bunch of smarty pants that are going to come out. Like I was just at the Conservative Energy Network Summit and John Monken was presenting there. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It was like so wonky, but how do you talk about transmission and get people to laugh and crack jokes?
Meanwhile, give me a chance to get policy wonky and I'm in it. So like when, at least at that iteration of Veep, I was like, you'll let me go research something and take this as seriously as you'll allow me to? Like, okay, let's do it.
What was your paper on? I forget.
I sort of just repackaged a portion of my graduate thesis, which was kind of part of my transition story. I went to Johns Hopkins. I got a Master of Arts in Government and Political Communication. And my published research in that program was on the cross section between energy security and national security. And this is before I'd ever even met you guys and knew that there was this project out there that existed. So I did a bunch of research on my end. And I had a chapter or a portion of my research that talked about sustainable aviation fuels and the realistic transition for aviation, most likely carrier aviation, to transition to some sort of biodiesel blend, which has been successfully tested, but not necessarily in action currently. So I just promoted that. I submitted to Atlantic Council some draft language that could be proposed for a future NDAA, potentially, Defense Authorization Act, just to support reaffirming that program and reinvesting in that program because there's opportunity for us to utilize farm and ranch products, byproducts that I now deal with in a different setting in our energy solutions within the defense industry. So that was
Yeah.
my like perspective. I'd flown for so many years and just burned a ton of gas every day. And I was like, are there other solutions here? Like, what else could we do?
Yeah.
And a lot of it circled around what has now become, like, I think, the forefront of the energy and defense conversation, which is this pursuit for additional oil reserves globally and especially up in the Arctic. And before I got off active duty, I was working at the NSA and I was aware of efforts, training programs, things that were starting to pivot just regionally to the Arctic in that pursuit. And I just started asking the question, like, if we had another oil solution that allowed us to be a little less dependent on foreign reserves or on foreign conflict that tends to resolve around foreign reserves, could we still have as strong of a defense industry as we do right now without that foreign support? And I do think there are those opportunities. And then that just kind of bridged me right into renewables here at home.
So go back. How did you first get into the military? Because I mean, like, you into an academy. You don't just go, well, I guess I'll take my safety school.
No, I love school. If that's not apparent, I am definitely a student and I did really well in school when I was younger, in high school, et cetera. And I really wanted to get out of Dodge. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, and I was just like, I want to go live in like New York City or go do something big and exciting. And I had no
Hot
idea
girl
what that would
summer.
be. Yeah, I just wanted to go have fun. I was a teenager and wanted to go do something interesting. And my dad made it very clear to my sister and I that school is expensive. It's non-negotiable. You will be getting a degree. And I was like, don't worry about me. I'm going to get 10. And he's like, okay, well, you'll have to pay for that.
She can go do whatever she wants. I got it covered.
They're like, okay, well, these private schools you're looking at or these out of state situations here, those are going to be a little hard for us to float between the two of you guys. So you will be working while you're at school. You will need scholarships. And I'm like, got it. I'll apply. I'll get it all. Don't worry about me. And he kind of put the bug in my ear. He was like, have you heard about the military? And I think everyone around me was like, her in the military? I don't think so. But he recommended the service academies. And I went and did a little summer program in Annapolis for about a week. And it kicked my butt. And in hindsight, it's pretty benign when you think about all the other things you do when you're actually on active duty. But I was like 16 years old and did just like a week of running around and getting yelled at in the summer in Annapolis. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. And I have to do it. So I came back and
This is horrible. I want 4 years of this.
pretty much I came back and I was just like a dog with a bone. And I drove myself to all my medical appointments and did all my interviews with the congressman and jumped through all the little hoops and did the dog and pony show. And fortunately got in, and then we were off to the races.
Nice. So what were you doing when you were in before you went to and did all your NSA shenanigans?
Yeah, I think I teased it a little bit in our conversation so far, but I was selected for aviation within the military. So the Naval Academy, you have a couple different options similar to other commissioning sources, and naval aviation was one of them. And then kind of between, there's two options in naval aviation where you could be a pilot, where you're like guy at the stick, or an NFO, which is a naval flight officer. And so I was selected for naval flight officer.
You were Goose.
I was Goose. I'm still here to tell the tale though, which is good. And but yeah, I got selected for NFO, and I was so eager to start my career too. I remember there was this opportunity when you're leaving the academy to kind of select your flight school start date. And a lot of my other friends waited to start in like October after graduating so they could have a couple of dumb months and in Annapolis just running the PE department. And I was like, no, I want the first class in June. I want to be the first one to wing. I want to go now. And I don't know, whatever. But I did. And I had fun. And,
Do you regret that?
you know, at the time, I really thought like, if I don't start now, then this is going to just take forever. And you don't think about what 6 months is in life. So
Yeah.
no, I don't regret it. I'm glad I got down there.
Oh my God, 6 months when you're that age? That's like an eternity.
It felt like forever. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been amazing.
Well, and your clock, I think your commitment clock doesn't start until you get your wings. And so I was like, I want to get my wings so I can see this thing through. Let's get this going.
Yeah. You're like, I need to get out and make some real money eventually.
No, not that. I think I would have stayed on for a career probably if things hadn't gone the way they did. You know, just you don't know what your career is going to look like at that time. But
Yeah, because you were in for 8, you said?
yeah, 8 to 9, like right there in the middle. But I selected jets while I was down there in Pensacola, which was very exciting. Although at the time, I really thought I wanted to go VFA, which is like strike fighters, F-18s. Maybe not because of the mission, sorry to say, but because their duty station locations were either Lemoore, California, which no, I did not want, or Norfolk, Virginia, Virginia Beach. And I thought, well, at least if I could get Virginia Beach, like I'm on a coast and I'm in kind of a populated area and I could be a normal 20-something-year-old girl. And instead I selected Growlers. So I was sent up to Whidbey Island, Washington, like the middle of nowhere, Washington State. And I went kicking and screaming. I was so devastated. I think to this day, I've never cried more about something than the day I found out I got Growlers. And I pulled into town and I couldn't have been more wrong. That was the perfect place for me. I fell in love with Washington State and the Pacific Northwest. And I really enjoyed the Growler mission as well because we worked in electronic attack. And I still got to do the pointy nose great jet thing. You know, I was in essentially the same airframe as an F-18 as an E-18. But you don't know what you don't know, like I said.
Yeah. I walked around. So I'm like, faster car, bigger car, more armor car.
You walked, I sat. It's the same deal.
So much smarter than me, obviously. What was the tipping point? What made you want to get out?
a few things happened. I did a big whirlwind deployment. We did a around the world deployment. I was in the South China Sea, did some combat flights over Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. And right as we were about to come home, I fainted in my stateroom. And it was a day I was supposed to have I don't even think I've told you this story,
I don't think so.
but I had two really big air to air flights that day that I was getting graded on. And they had to pull me from the flight schedule, send me to see flight surgeons. And they were like, look, we want to poke and prod you, but we don't have all the equipment we need here on the carrier. So we're going to send you home about like 2 weeks early from deployment so we can have some professionals do that back home. And I did. And then when I got home, yep, docs were like, we've got this flag, this flag, this flag. We're surprised we hadn't caught this sooner. You can sit around and twiddle your thumbs in a down status, which means you're like not actively flying, probably for about 2 years, because they were predicting that was how long it was going to take for the NAMI, the Naval Aviation Medical Board, to decide my future. Or we can switch you over to a different community and you can actually go do something with your time. And I sat with it for about 2-ish weeks before I gave them my answer. And I was like, look, I don't even think it's worth pursuing this waiver. I got to go do the damn thing. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to sit there standing desk duty every day for 2 years hoping for an answer.
So when you did the NSA, were you loaned out during that period?
Essentially, I ended up transferring to the cryptologic warfare community, which is a part of the naval information warfare intelligence community.
Yeah.
And there was very seamless crossover for me because I obviously was doing tip of the spear electronic attack effects in the Growler, but the CRIPI community in the Navy oversees electronic attack warfare for a lot of our surface platforms as well. And so I was able to kind of cross over into that space and worked in the SIGINT space. And the cryptologic warfare community has commands that are embedded in the NSA. So I was in a naval command at the National Security Agency, but working with civilian bodies. Big old military mess. But
nice.
Yes, that was my last tour. And to answer your original question, it was kind of time for me my CO was a really great guy. I got along with him a lot. He was actually retiring. He really wanted to put me up for 04. And it was kind of a decision of do you want to make a career out of being a crippy as a senior officer, or do you want to go find something else to do? And I took the latter. So I was like, I'm not flying anymore. It's not as fun.
Yeah.
And I think let's go find a new chapter.
So you call it crippy. I always called it cryptos.
Same thing.
Okay. I was about to say, you've also said more on this podcast than every crypto I've ever known combined.
Oh, yeah. They get real spooked about I can't tell you.
They don't tell me anything.
I can tell you that this exists. You can Google it. It's on Wikipedia. It's fine.
I knew one guy for 3 years. And at one point he said something about his son. I'm like, I thought you only had a daughter. He's like, from my first marriage. I didn't know you got remarried. He's like, uh-huh. I'm like, that's it? That's the extent you let one noun slip? We're friends. I'm not
The crippy community versus the aviation community, wildly socially different. Wildly. And I came in, red hair, big mouth, just what's up, guys? And they were like,
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, who let the chihuahua in?
Literally. So it worked out well. No, I made a ton of friends in that community too. And I was actually really interested in their mission. I just couldn't see myself sitting in a skiff for the next 15 years. So 10 years, I guess, at that point, at a minimum.
Yeah, I hurt my foot and we didn't know what was wrong. It turned out it wasn't that big of a deal, but we got fixed after I got out. But when I was making a decision, do I want to go back to the captain's course? I have to leave my unit, but am I going to get out and file paperwork, or am I going to basically, re-up for 3 to 4 or 5 years? And I hurt my foot and they're like, well, you can just go be intel. And I was like, man, if I can't be in the infantry, I don't know if I want to be in the Army. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't join this to I already don't like garrison that much. You're telling me my best job is now behind me. I don't know.
I did kind of open the can of worms though when I got off active duty and posted that video, because I was like, oh, I got to go do all these things. Yay for me. I had a fun career. And I did attract a lot of internet attention from other veterans naturally. And there were a bunch of old salty guys who were like, why would you get out at 10 years? You could have gone for 20 and got da 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 da. And I was like, yeah, brother, I had a different journey in life.
You could have had
But
free parking forever.
yeah. And I'm like, I hear you, but now look what I'm doing. So it's good.
Yeah. No, I know. I always feel bad when, like, if we tell stories and there's somebody who served in a peacetime, like in the 80s or something, and they're like, "Oh, I'm really sorry I didn't deploy." I'm like, "Dude, you served.
This is like such a thing
You're
for me.
good."
I've talked about this online a lot and recently, actually, where there's this mentality and it feels very like millennial vet. It feels very GWAT vet, honestly,
Oh,
compared to other vets that I've talked to.
keep talking to me. I'm your audience.
Yeah. So, like, GWAT vets do this dick measuring contest thing that I don't think other campaign vets do as much. To a degree. I've been in some veteran groups where I've had the honor to speak with and get to know some Vietnam vets, and a few of them had differing experiences of combat time and personal loss and injury and things like that. And so they definitely compare, well, my buddy died, or I saw my buddy lose limbs, or those sorts of things. And then they kind of go internal and they really degrade the value of their service. Then you kind of fast forward to this 20-year war for GWAT, and you see so many different versions of service compared to in the past. Desk job guys, enlisted versus officer. I was only in for a year. I was only in for 20. I didn't take this promotion at one point in my career where I could have been the quarterback, man. I could have been a SEAL. And it's like they do that thing and then they compare one another and really degrade themselves. And I wish veterans didn't do that. I wish that they took seriously even the small effort that they might have provided, because the reality is that less than 1% of Americans have even bothered to put the uniform on. And so you've done far more than most of your neighbors have, even if all you were doing was approving leave chits every day.
Yeah. I think I'd been out for like 3 months or something, and one of my team leads sent me a thing from a guy in the unit. He had moved on to a billet doing recruiting. And, this is 2007, 8, and it's a recording from him talking at a Rotary Club. So it's like an online MP3 kind of thing, right? Like audio only. And he's talking about racking and stacking bodies as a sniper in an SF. And like he's telling stories and everybody was pissed. And it's just, no one's going to go make a movie about what we did, but we got into a lot of shit. But I mean, like, I always say, like, listen, I got shot at more than most people, but I know some people that got shot at way more than I ever did, and definitely more than I ever want to be. So like, I'm good with my service, but like this guy was like, it's like, you don't need to reach for like false, you don't have to pretend to be Chris Kyle. Like, what are you doing? It's weird.
Yeah, no, I was even at a wedding this weekend with some girlfriends of mine that I flew with. And this conversation surfaced again because I was talking about, like, oh my gosh, remember when we were on deployment and this happened on the boat and whatever. And then even one of my girlfriends was like, yeah, but I don't know, we weren't boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
There's always the caveat.
right. And I'm like, I wanted to shake her and be like, no, girl, like,
Yeah.
do you know how few people have seen the things we've seen? And not to be like overly prideful about it, but just be honest, have that kind of like emotional honesty with yourself that like you were there, you did something. Like it's not less than. So
Well, and I screw up sometimes when I'm talking about Project Vanguard and like, oh, we're going to advocate for the industry, and we tie out our combat experience to our industry experience. And like someone had to like tap me and go like,
we don't all have combat experience.
3 people in this room didn't deploy.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, oh, because I'm just used to like when I first came out, there were the occasional like they got hurt in training or something happened. I knew a couple people like they wanted to deploy, but they couldn't. It just, the timing never worked out. They got these weird billets. But I mean, it was like 99.9% of people I knew when I first got out, everybody had deployed. And I have to remind myself now, like, that's not everybody's experience. Or one of Cress, who works with us and is one of the community leaders, he was at the end of OIF, not at the beginning.
I was going to say, or between those like Vietnam vets and like Desert Storm vets that I met and, the kickoff of GWAT, there's some really solid 90s babies in there who just maybe didn't see a whole lot. And so,
Yeah, and that's fine. That's where I was starting with it is like, there was a guy that I did work with,
I'm kind of like, good.
and he would be like,
Like,
I'm really sorry I didn't get in the shit when I was in the Marines. I'm like, you don't control geopolitics and like bad politicians.
no, there's no apologies made for service provided, in my opinion. Like I said, you raised your right hand, you signed that paper, you showed up to basic, you put the uniform on. Millions of Americans would not even bother.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Well, so as we kind of come into the end here, Megan, I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about like what's it been like for you, working with Project Vanguard, being in the fellowship. This is our first iteration of the fellowship. We're going to continue doing this. But like, what advice would you have for people who are interested in volunteering or getting more involved and more visible? I hope is that's what we're doing for a lot of our volunteer leads.
Yeah, I think there's probably two different groups of people. There's probably some vets out there who are really interested in just getting into the energy industry. Maybe they're transitioning vets, like just trying to like find their foot in the door. And I would say be as aggressive as you had to be when you were on active duty.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to put your hand out there. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you are trying to get into something, you have to be the squeaky wheel and do it respectfully, be tactful about it, but be the person that cold messages a stranger on LinkedIn. I know we all hate that website, but like just do it
Yeah.
and say, hey, I saw that you work at such and such. My name is so and so, and I just want to talk to you about your experience and start learning. I've seen that from other vets who I know you've connected me with that they're trying to get in, and they know that I can't turn around and offer them a job tomorrow. They know that I can't necessarily like get them the dream job.
Yeah.
But they've learned that even just that networking and getting to know folks in the industry is a part of that transition learning curve. And then I think the other bucket of folks that are wanting to maybe just get involved in Project Vanguard, but are already out there in the energy industry is like, hey, hit me up. Like, let's do this. Same sort of deal. But there's so many different roles in this industry that I think we didn't get to talk too much about it, but I think are a part of this national security goal that you and I are aligned on,
Mm-hmm.
which is that we're in an energy drought. We need more electrons on the grid yesterday, 10 days of yesterday. So whether you are the wind turbine technician or you're like the head of development at a prominent IPP, we need voices that are going to continue to advocate for our work because we know that we are providing ultimately a service to the American people, which is keeping their lights on, keeping food in their homes, fresh and clean. We are providing something for the American people. And so if you are working in this industry already
Mm-hmm.
and you see Project Vanguard and you see veterans as a vehicle for continuing to promote our work, then yeah, bug me and Kevin. Let's grab coffee. I don't even drink coffee, but let's grab water.
That's horrible.
I know. I don't drink coffee.
Well, and, I'll make a little PSA here because people do reach out a lot, and I feel bad because I can't take as many calls now as we continue to grow.
Yeah, I guess don't bug Kevin.
Well, no, but what I'm going to say is, we built an entire organization that answers what you would get out of a 30-minute call with me. Like somebody recently was like, hey, Josh, it was Josh Ovid. He put me in touch with a couple of people that he'd come across from like Dartmouth and a few other places, vets getting their MBAs. And I'm like, listen, sorry, it took me like 2 weeks to get back to him. I felt horrible because I kept snoozing it. But I'm like, listen, we've built an entire infrastructure and ecosystem for you to tap into. So you don't have to wait 2 weeks for me to unfuck myself. Like,
do the intro. Yeah.
right. Go on, join, get in the Slack channel. Like what Megan was just saying. We don't help people get jobs. We help people get a screening call. Megan can't give you a job, but Megan can like help you understand how Vestas and Steelhead work and where you fit or where you don't fit or where you have a gap. And then if you've got something in the hopper with HR, she can tap someone on the shoulder and now your resume goes to the top. You get a call. But then like go to YouTube, go watch some of the playlists that we put together. Watch and listen to this one.
I suppose you could come follow me. I don't know if you'll like it there, but you're welcome to come.
Well, and we have a whole speakers page on the website. Meet all these great people that are out there that want to get in and find the person in your state, find the person in your domain specialty that you want to get into or has your service background. So I just think there's so much out there. And if they do want to follow you, how would they do that?
I am on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc. at Megan.Glancey. So just first name, last name.
That's it. Glancey?
Correct. Yeah.
Bam. Nailed it. All right.
You got it.
I'll take my $5 now.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug.
That's what I'm here for. Well, Megan, any last thoughts?
No, energy security is national security. What we're doing provides generational wealth to farmers and ranchers in rural America. And renewable energy is the future of the energy industry.
Zero cost, zero commodity, no marginal fuel cost. Early still in the technology curve. So crashing, average costs as the technology just continues to improve. It's great.
Yeah, we're ready. We're not giving up. So you'll see me out there trying to replace 1 acre of your crop for a wind turbine. We pay more.
Oh, but the dollars per acre that farm's going to bring in now just keeps going up.
Thousands more. Yeah, it's nice.
All right, Megan. Well, hey, thanks for making the time today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it. I'm excited to keep working with you. We'll go bug some folks here in Austin in a couple weeks.
I know. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We just had our first senator RSVP for it. So, it's going to be great.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into the Project Vanguard podcast. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with someone who's ready to think differently, whether it's about an all-the-above energy approach, how energy security is national security, or the veteran workforce in our industry. If you believe what we're building, a quick review goes a long way. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep up the fire.